All right, Johnny.
What?
Go
Fire
ahead. Go
away,
ahead.
brother. Yeah,
And I
well,
was
I was
gonna.
just going to say right out of the gate, the strongman training has actually become very popular in the last 10 years. Like you're finding different strongman events incorporated into CrossFit. You're finding at many gyms, you'll find a corner where there's some strongman events. And I think the fitness world is starting to recognize how valuable that functional training from strongman is. And so I just going to say for most people, if it's something that interests you and you find some lighter pieces of equipment, just start playing with it. But be careful. You don't want to try to pick something up that's too heavy because you can't just, we all started with the lighter weight, so to speak, in those awkward positions because strongman is learning to be strong in very awkward positions. But you don't just walk up to something and try to pick up something real heavy for the first time in an awkward position. So
Yeah.
yes, it's popularized but ease into it. It's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it more of a functional style training? Do you perform the traditional lifts? And then that's the first question. Then the next question is, how would you transition from bodybuilding to that, or from strongman to bodybuilding? I can't remember which one you did first. Is there a
Yeah,
difference?
yeah. So basically, what it comes down to is you're going to have you're going to have your squat, you're going to have your deadlift, you're going to have your pressing movements. Then some of those incorporate into the strongman events. But realistically, what you've got to do is you've got to start working with the actual implements. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really common. Like you'll find like a power lifter is someone who benches, deadlifts, and squats. Very straightforward movements, right angles. Then you'll find those guys that are really strong and really like world class in powerlifting. They'll come over to strongman because they have the base strength, and that they usually do very well in strongman. But here's the crazy part: they actually will get better at powerlifting because they've gotten stronger in those awkward positions, which lends itself to being a better powerlifter. So when it comes down to it, I think what people need to understand about strongman training is it's going to be really helpful in anything you're doing because we don't really train in awkward positions, and that's what strongman is. So when
Yeah.
it comes to a transition, it's just like anything else. I put in the work. I had been putting in the work for many years before I started using the event. So I had that base strength, but I had to learn to do all this other stuff. And
Yeah.
I also had to learn to basically learn to do these events in a way that wasn't going to hurt me. And I'll be totally honest, when I was getting out of the gate, I had some early success and I tried to speed up the process. And I ended up rupturing 2 discs in my back early on in my strongman career. So I
Wow.
competed with 2 ruptured discs for 6 years at the international level. It was brutal, but
Man.
my thought was, I'm here. I'm not gonna leave until I'm forced to, because once you get there, there's always somebody waiting to take your spot.
Yep.
But that would be like me personally. That was a mistake that I made. I had spent decades training in the gym, squat,
Yep.
deadlift, all this kind of stuff. But then when I went, obviously, tried to excel too quickly in the sport of strongman, it banged me up pretty good. So that transition, just because you're a strong dude in the gym, you're still at major risk of injury if you're going to be pushing the limits with the strongman event. So that transition is something that you really got to listen to the body. But I think for everybody listening, we obviously want to bring some good takeaways for everybody listening. If strongman training interests you, there are lots of gyms now that have the equipment. And usually in that gym that has the equipment, there's part of the staff or somebody, a member, who kind of runs that section of the gym. There'll usually be a strongman day of training or two, and ask around, find out when they're doing, who's doing it, and they'll teach you how to do it in a way that will really serve you well in terms of we just talked about training that was functional in life. Their strongman is extremely functional for life.
Yeah, man, that's all good stuff. And just to maybe put it in someone else's, maybe they're not doing strongman, maybe they want to play flag football or go play men's league basketball. And John mentioned his injuries. I say be careful because when you're just doing traditional bodybuilding, you're not working on certain movements like you would in strongman or these sports. If you're doing flag football or basketball, think of change of direction. Think of you'll be single leg, you'll need some explosive movements. Be careful. And even myself, I'm trying to get back on the basketball court, but I'm making sure my IT bands are right. I'm ready to change direction. I'm ready to take strides and sprint. I don't want to just hop out there, and then I end up straining a hamstring or something like that. So the transition is real. It's not just, you didn't go just straight from bodybuilding right to strongman. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And I think if to break it down nice and simple, just remember, everybody, the gym movements are very directional. They're basically forwards
It's
and
it's
backwards, side to
it's still
side. There's
functional.
not a lot of angles. What's
Hmm.
that?
I said it's still functional, but it's just a different type of functional training.
Yes. And so here's the thing. To really have the most function, you need to be strong in all of these angles, not just this way, not just this way. And so when you're talking about strongman training, or even like Marty's talking about flag football, or we hear Christina talking about softball, that's being strong and explosive in all different angles. And that's function right there. So when it comes down to lifting weights is great. But if you incorporate some other flag football, playing softball, whatever you do, strongman training, and you have some regularity, it could be once or twice a week on top of your training, it's going to serve you massively. There was a period where I was doing just gym training. And then I remember I went and played what football field and just played catch with a couple of buddies, just throwing the ball, nothing
Hmm.
competitive. Oh my God, I was so sore. I was like, holy shit,
Yeah,
it's been too long since I've run.
yeah,
Those muscles weren't used to work. I woke
it's
up the next
different.
day and my groin was tight. So I realized very quickly that, hey, you've been excelling in the gym, but you can't let this other shit go. So don't think that for a moment that if you're in the gym, great, keep going. But just remember, if you really want to gain that extra function for life, you need something in your training, your activities, where you're just moving every which direction. And that's what strongman is. That's what softball is. That's what basketball is. So
Yep,
incorporate some other shit in your training and it will serve you really well.
absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, boys, I'd like to jump in here with a question for Johnny. Marty, just continue our conversation with Eddie Hall here today. We started up about 45 minutes ago around what the guy eats. John, let's just take a couple minutes before we bring Christina back in here and go into community corner. You've talked about what you eat on a daily basis, and you're a big man, eat a lot of good food. What does a guy like Eddie Hall eat on a daily basis? Because something you said also struck me. And Marty, I'm going to look at you, pal. Can you imagine just living your entire life to spend maybe 8 or 10 seconds to lift something up? It's like an Olympic athlete, right? I got to go, I'm going to become the world's strongest, fastest person. I want to go now think about the world's strongest human, right? You need to sleep. You need to eat for basically 10 seconds of your life to lift something really heavy. John, what's the guy eating on a daily basis and how many hours is he sleeping on a daily basis, Johnny?
Sleep is extremely important. So usually when someone's really cooking and they've totally locked on, especially when you get to the point where you don't have a job. Eddie started off having a job and then he started progressing to the point where he didn't have to work anymore. And that's when he was able to really kick ass because now he's able to eat, take a nap. He probably took multiple naps.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, there's an eating schedule and it's not comfortable. He's eating for purpose, period.
Yeah.
He's trying to make his food taste good, but he's looking at if this is not helping me, I'm not eating it. But he's
what if
eating
he's not hungry?
massive amounts of red meat. What's that? If he's not hungry, too fucking bad. He's eating.
Yes, sir.
It's as simple as that, eh, John? You just eat.
Oh, yeah. But listen, in that world, just because you don't want to do something, who gives a shit? Go tell someone who cares because
Yep.
all you do is the shit you don't want to do to get to the highest level. I don't give a damn. We're talking about anything, business, sports.
Yeah. Yes.
The people that make it to the top, if they live their life so I don't want to do that, they wouldn't be where they are. So
Well, look
that always
yeah. Look at being an
that
entrepreneur.
always kills me with people with food. I don't like that. And people, granted, I understand the average person, but if you're trying to get somewhere like really aggressively, I don't like that. Well, get ready to do a whole lot of shit you don't like. And if eating some fucking broccoli is on the top of your list, just sell out on the drain because you're going to do a lot more than eat some broccoli that you don't like to do.
Yeah.
So to answer the question, he's eating tons and tons of red meat and he's eating pretty much all day long. He's never, ever will be hungry. Being hungry for that world would be like the biggest sin. Because if you're hungry, you're losing an opportunity for your body to process nutrients, to recover and build more strength.
Wow. Johnny, I know we don't talk often about calories here on the show. How many, let's wrap it up in a number for the average person tuning in right now. How many calories would Eddie Hall crush on a daily basis, Johnny?
In that world, calories is a little bit more of a helpful tool.
Okay.
Because in that world, of course, you're worried about, because keep in mind, you're eating the foods that are really dense in nutrients. So that's already covered. Well, now I need to get this much of that good nutrient dense food. So
Nice.
it would be, it's going to be 10,000 plus calories a day. There's no question about that. But how much over that, I don't know. But you figure under 10, he's not progressing. Over 10, how much over 10? That's the world crazy. He needs to be living in. Do the math on that. That's a shitload. It's all going to be really dense food and highly digestible. People that are going to eat Big Macs, that shit doesn't digest well. But you could eat a bunch of steak and some rice and some vegetable or whatever you're eating, and that's good food, and that'll digest quickly. But you put a Big Mac in there, next time it comes to eat, you're going to be like, holy shit, I still got that thing in my stomach. Yeah. This is really hurting to get my next meal down.
Yeah. All right, we're going to wrap this up here, but I'll leave this with this comment, and I think we're going to come back to this over many shows here, but Eddie Hall is a great example of do you want to be strong or do you want to be aesthetically lean? Johnny, because you probably can't be both. Eddie Hall is the world's strongest man, but Johnny's not getting on stage and winning an IFBB pro competition because they're two very completely different goals. Yep. And again, as somebody who's been to the gym nation, I'm looking at you guys like me. You go to your trainer. Hey, I want to lose weight and I want to be strong. Oh, but what is it, Keith? Do you want to lose weight or do you want to be strong? Or do you want a better composition? Do you want to be like Eddie Hall or do you want to be like John Anderson, lean? And that's my goal with this show is to keep teaching people that question when you go to your trainer. Because when you go to Marty and you say you want to be strong, he's making you strong. He's telling you what to eat. He's going to make you strong, but you might not have that six pack you desire. So there's different goals and different process to achieve that goal. And you look no further than Eddie Hall. The world's strongest man is not the jacked lean dude with the 12 pack on his abdominals there. So what a great chat today, John. Great insights, brother.